All right. Good day. Good day. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining me today. If you haven't had a chance to sign in, I'll give you about 45 seconds to get that done. You just click on that link that I sent you. And by the way, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can
Okay.
see.
Okay. All right. So we'll start off with good things. Do you have any good things you would like to share?
I just came off of a brief vacation for the summer, um, celebrating an early birthday. So, other than that, things are going okay.
Awesome, awesome, good. I just got out of training, so that's my good thing. I'll be ESL certified this year, so that's awesome for me. All right, so this professional development will be managing student behavior. We know that behavior impedes the learning of our students in the classroom, so we're going to take a look at some 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 things that help our educators in the classroom and the supports that they have provided to them as well.
Okay.
So the agenda here we have, we'll look at the discipline matrix, the classroom managed behaviors, the tools in the classroom, the IEPs, 504s, and BIPs, how to identify our students, and doing when we're managing those behaviors out of the classroom support, addressing the role of the behavior intervention, the counselor, and administration as well. So, and then we'll also look at the referral process, emergency safety needs, or whatnot. So, we'll start off with the video by Jerry Brooks. I like to start off with some raw footage from Jerry Brooks. He speaks nothing but real, but he's also funny while doing so. Just um, sharing what us educators go through on a day-to-day basis. So he'll be briefly talking about some behavior management strategies.
Okay. Awesome. Sounds good.
All right, so here we go.
So today I'm going to offer a tutorial on a new behavioral management system. It's called Facial Behavioral Management. For all of our new teachers and teachers whose classroom are just a little bit out of control. So if you can master the facial behavior management phases, you'll be able to do all right. This behavioral management system actually came from church moms who are able to control their kids in church just with their facial features. I'm not going to share one at a time because you need to practice. So the first phase in our behavioral management system is quick change. This causes all the kids in your classroom to stop and think, am I doing something wrong? This is what it looks like. Boys and girls, get out your snack, and we're all going to...
Can you hear the video by chance?
Yes, I can hear it. Yes.
Hold on. Let me see. Let me make sure I'm sharing my screen. Okay. All right, so I'll start the video over because I don't think it was playing on this.
So today I'm going to offer a tutorial
there we
on a
go.
new behavioral management system. It's called Facial Behavioral Management. For all of our new teachers and teachers whose classroom are just a little bit out of control. So if you can master the facial behavior management phases, you'll be able to do all right. This behavioral management system actually came from church moms who are able to control their kids in church just with their facial features. I'm not going to share one at a time because you need to practice. So the first phase in our behavioral management system is quick change. This causes all the kids in your classroom to stop and think, am I doing something wrong? This is what it looks like. Boys and girls, get out your snack, and we're all going to eat together. So make sure, and see, it causes all the kids to stop and think, am I doing something wrong? So you really need to get your quick change down. Now, expert teachers, they do a quick change with a head whip. Quick change with a head whip are for those kids that aren't quite attentive to what you're doing. And so the head whip helps them understand that quick change is coming my way. This is what it looks like. Okay, boys and girls, get your snacks out. We're all going to We're all going to continue to eat. And that child that has no clue what's going on, all of a sudden thinks to themselves, what was that? Why'd that come my way? Now, here's some advice with the head whip. If you're fat, it doesn't work because your face jiggles. It looks like this. Okay, boys and girls. And when your face jiggles, the whole classroom laughs. So you have to skip to number 2. But I'm not going to give you number 2 until tomorrow because you need to be able to practice on those. Because if you don't get the quick change down, then things will not work well for your classroom. Now, tomorrow we'll be talking about the defiant child that gives you the blank stare continue behavior. Blank stare continue behavior is when they stare at you while slowly continuing the behavior to see what you're going to do. This is what it looks like. And dealing with that child, you got to do more than the quick change. So tune in tomorrow. But remember, tonight, make sure you practice your quick change.
Another one from Jerry Brooks. He's always making things humorous. So, all right. So we're going to look at some of the classroom managed behaviors, and those are behaviors that will be managed by classroom teachers, and they're intended for classroom teachers only. So, typical behaviors look like students not following classroom essential agreements, not name calling, teasing, horseplay, defiance, disrespect, disrupting the lessons throughout the day, not completing their work and not following directions. Some nonviolent peer conflicts. So that looks like when they say nonviolent, it's more so, tussling. Say someone took their pencil or their notebook, they're tussling. It's not any punches thrown. It's just, conflicts amongst students. So we're be addressing that. Student leaving without permission, hiding, escaping under a desk, or destroying materials. Typically, those are behaviors that a classroom teacher will manage themselves. So at the beginning of the school year, it's always important for teachers to develop a social contract with the students. I like to do it first thing, at least the first week of school. Get together with your students. This is something that you and your students should develop together, not just the teacher, because what will happen is if the teacher creates these rules, these are just your rules. Whereas if you create them with your students, everyone is in agreement to what you are agreeing to. Like, be respectful to others and not talk while others are speaking, different things like that. When students participate in that, then they are aware of what those rules are, what it looks like to violate those rules, and what those consequences are. So the teacher will then implement the classroom management plan, the 4 questions, the consequences, as I stated, and implement restorative practices. So effective statements would be, you're kind, you're smart, you're better than this, things of that nature. Effective statements to let them know what is expected. And words of affirmation, too, are great to have around your classroom. I think it's good for students to see and hear that all the time because they need encouragement, just like we do as adults and educators. So choose, act, and reflect. Those are all restorative practices that we would like implemented in the classroom. So when evidence has been collected to show a pattern, that's when SST gets involved. So we'll move over to the behavior interventionist and we'll talk a little more about SST. So if you're experiencing any of the following behaviors, contact a behavior interventionist, and that's when they'll develop the SST. So if there's any persistent defiance, offensive language, like a student cursing or saying anything just inappropriate, we all know what's offensive. Theft, vandalism, escalated arguments that escalate further than just, you shut up or you leave me alone. Anything that's escalated past that point that's disruptive in the classroom, we definitely would like the behavior interventions to step in and kind of assist in de-escalating that situation. Horseplay that leads to safety issues. Now we talked about non-violent conflicts, but this is more so violent conflict where students may be throwing blows at each other, throwing chairs, where others are possibly in harm's way, or self-inflicting behaviors, things of that nature. We will have to set up a SST. Behavior interventions will do observation, and tier 2 group will intervene as well and develop a behavior plan. So when things escalate and impede other students' safety and the student's safety that's actually exhibiting the behavior, that's an emergency. It needs immediate removal infractions. Call the office immediately. That's any behavior that's abusive language, racial, taunting, physical aggression with the intent of harm. It's like running at another student with scissors, or, like I said, throwing chairs. That's more so for this column, actually. Leaving school grounds, eloping. We're not talking about leaving the classroom and roaming in the hallway. This is more so leaving school grounds, because when students come, parents leave their kids with us, they're in our care, and it's up to us to ensure their safety while they're in our care. So leaving school grounds, immediately call the office. That's big. Threat or intimidation, harassment, all of these things will need intervention from the administrators. You can call myself or Ms. Cuellar. And other things like vandalism of personal property or school property. You go to the computer lab, you have a student that's breaking things in there, that's school property, and needs immediate intervention. Weapons, knives, lighters, I think we all understand the severity of those things. And so we call the office, contact also the case manager. If it's not anything immediately that requires immediate assistance, then you can call the case manager. But I would suggest your first stop would be call the office, or to get to administrators. Marnie will actually step in for any of the tier 2 behavior students. And also I want you to know that the teachers that have a lot of behavior in their classroom, we know and understand that, and I want to support you in any way. We know that running to a phone and dialing the office's number is not ideal, and so we'll provide you with walkie-talkies so you can just pull off the hip and get immediate assistance, because especially if there is physical aggression within the classroom. So we need to address that immediately. So next up, tools for the classroom. We'll be continuing to participate this year in Capturing Kids' Hearts. The 4 questions, and those 4 questions are: what are you doing? What are you supposed to be doing? And are you doing it? Student will reflect, and then you'll ask, what are you going to do about it? And so asking those questions will have the student reflect on their behavior, what they need to do, and how they need to get it done. Classroom rewards and consequences, that goes back to the social contract that we created at the beginning of the school year. I ask that everyone creates that. We as staff will also create one, because we need to hold each other accountable and know that what's right, what it looks like to make good choices, and what consequences will look like if we don't make those right choices. In affirmations, I spoke briefly about that. We need to encourage our kids at all times, give them positive feedback when they're making good choices, and let them know that you're proud of them, not just talk to them and redirect them when they're making poor choices. We need to also give them positive reinforcement as well throughout the day when they're making good choices. So there's some, first, are there any questions before I move on to restorative practices?
The Capturing Kids' Hearts, is that something that we would do throughout the day, or is it only to address behaviors?
So Capturing Kids' Hearts, that is throughout the day. That's it targets a lot of things, not just behavior, but just affirmations and encouraging our students in the classroom. And we'll talk briefly about the restorative practices to kind of piggyback on the Capturing Kids' Hearts, but it's just kind of making our classroom a safe place and giving them a comfortable environment to work in and feel safe in, and know that they are wanted in our classrooms. And we are there for them to support them and to give them the social interactions with not only their teachers, but their peers as well, to just bring that positivity for them. So
Okay.
yeah, and our SEL lessons will target a lot of those Capturing Kids' Hearts tools that we'll need, but we'll look at some restorative practices and it'll make a little more sense in a second.
Okay.
All right. So restorative practices, so building connections to change behaviors and repair relationships and improve results. So circle time. I can't emphasize this enough. As a former teacher, I loved first thing in the morning, sitting my students down and having circle time and just getting some feedback from them. How was your weekend? And then just allowing them time to tell me how their weekend was or what they did, share some things that they liked or disliked about their weekend, or say we had a school event. That's a great opportunity. Hey, what did you guys learn from that? Circle time is really big because it encourages the social interactions with their peers. And so it's really cool. And a great thing to implement in your classroom when you're wanting your kids to have a safe place. So we'll also look at restorative practices are a way to, we mentioned, build relationships, improve and repair relationships, maximize instructional time, reduce teacher anxiety. We know that when a kid is acting up, it affects us as teachers as well. Not only are the students in the classroom, but we as well have to deal with that. And sometimes it can, stress us out and cause anxiety because we may sometimes feel like we're neglecting our students because we're addressing behaviors nonstop throughout the day. So when we put these restorative practices in place, it reduces those stresses and anxieties because our students, we don't have to address those behaviors as much as because we're addressing the social aspect of the behavior piece. So when that aspect of it is met, then we minimize disruptive behaviors. So why? The why. A significant percentage of achievement gap is caused by punitive discipline. Students of color are more likely to be removed from the classroom instruction, even for the same behaviors than white students. Removal from the classroom disrupts connections to the school, the class, and peers and teachers. So, if a kid comes to school and they're spending most of their day in the office, what are they getting out of it? Are they learning when they're sitting in the office?
No.
Not at all. So restorative practices keep the kids in the classroom and address those behaviors so they can stay in the classroom versus pushing them out and being someone else's problem. So, we have a lot of kids that are disadvantaged, and we have to take a lot of things into consideration before just, social, emotional. What are all these things that are factoring into this student? Why are we dealing with such disruptive behavior? And that goes back to building a relationship with your kids, and then you'll be able to identify some kids who have some other things going on, not just behaviors, but things going on at home that affects school as well. So we want to take in consideration a lot of things versus just, in the moment trying to correct behavior. So we'll go back to our slide. And so Go Noodle, Go Noodle is awesome for providing opportunities for movement. Our kids are in the classroom practically more than half of the day. So the only time they get out is recess. They have lunch, specials. So they have recess twice a day. And that's about it. So unless you do an activity outside where they're moving, they're in the classroom. So provide other opportunities for movement. Go Noodle has great exercises where they can, what is it called? I forget the name of the Go Noodle exercise. I went to a training and it's I'm gonna tag it into the link when it comes to me. But there's a lot of exercises where they're learning at the same time while they're moving. They can ask questions. It's like a response, and then just getting those wiggles out. Because we as adults, we have a hard time sitting down for a long period of time as well. And we have breaks during our staff meeting just to get water, go to the restroom, and stand up because just like students, we fidget in our seat too, and we get the urge to want to move around and talk to our peers during professional development. So we want to keep that in mind. Why it's really important to have active learning and keep them engaged and moving as well. SEL lessons, those are also in the drive where you can access that. Clearly define procedures and expectations, utilizing student breaks in the Calm Cabin. The Calm Cabin is not just for kiddos who are having severe behavior needs. It's also for kids who need breaks. So if a student requests to go to the Calm Cabin because they need to decompress or they're just having a rough time and need a restart, go jump on the trampoline with Miss Runquest, then let them, by all means, let them go. It's student requested and teacher requested. So if I see if you see a student who, has their head down during a lesson or who typically is actively engaged in your lessons, then that'll be a good time for you to request to send a student out just to, once again, press that reset button, go to the Calm Cabin and kind of, talk whatever they're going through out and see how they can restart and continue their day on a positive note. All right. So classroom rewards and consequences. Examples of those rewards would be praise, pride tickets. If you catch a student doing something great, you give them a ticket, and then maybe at the end of the week, they can cash it in and go buy something at the school store. Preferred activities. I love this because it gives them something that it motivates them to work towards something. So if you, that can be something like extra recess and things of that nature. Student choice options. I also love Lunch Bunch. The kids can either do that individually or collectively as a whole, where, say if the class gets 50 points in a week for listening, following directions, completing their work on time, and treating others kind, they can all come into the classroom like on Friday, eat with the teacher, and watch a movie while they have their lunch. Or they can even choose to eat with the principal. My door is always open. So those are some options to give your students for positive reinforcement. So we mentioned a whole group or individually, those things can be done. Consequences, one-on-one conversation. I love to start off with that because it goes back to the rapport that you have with your student. You know what's expected of them, and they know what you expect of them as well. So start off with that, redirect them. If it continues, do a reflection sheet and have the student reflect on what they're doing, what they should be doing, and how they would change that behavior. Now, if you see that there's a problem that is persistent in your classroom amongst peers, so friends may be buddied up and they're talking too much or they're being silly, trying to be a class clown, then I would highly suggest you rearrange seats. Don't wait until Johnny beats up, Tim. If you see that problem escalating, separate them before it gets out of hand, because you have those red flags where Johnny starts off by taking a pencil. And then Tim gets upset and he's like stomping and pounding on his desk. And then it goes to the next thing. Johnny's flicking him in the back of his head. You already see that these are not a good pair. Those are red flags. Separate them. Move them around and try to get them with some peers who will have more positive influence on their behavior versus triggering behaviors to escalate to another level. Parent contact. I suggest parent contact when there is persistent behavior. Now, your parents should be your teammates. Now, that's not always the case. So when you're discussing behavior with parents, you know if they will be receptive to your feedback or not. So if you feel like reaching out to a parent would escalate the issue or not even change the issue, then reach out to administrators or behavior interventionists, and we'll address those issues with the parent if there's no change in behavior. I would also suggest loss of preferred activity. Now, it says if recess replaced with movement, such as walking laps. Okay, now I've seen recess being taken away by a lot of teachers. I do not agree with that. I feel like recess is just as important as lunch, specials, and that should not be a loss. That shouldn't even be considered a preferred activity. Now, what I will suggest is, if the student is having behavior that's disruptive during class, they're not completing their work and just refusing to do that, send that work home as homework. Have them do that as homework. If it wasn't initially for homework, I feel like that the student would think that's punishment enough. That's not always the case, but send it home, have them finish it at home, make sure a parent signs it and acknowledges that they understand why that homework assignment was sent home that day. But I highly discourage taking recess away because they need that movement and interaction. And if you need it, I mean, behavior stems from a lot of times boredom and things like that. If you take that away from them, they're only going to probably come back even worse. So I discourage taking recess away. I just don't. Now, maybe a loss of extra recess, to say if the class earned recess, extra 5 minutes or 10 minutes of recess, then they don't get to participate because that's something that they did not earn. But as far as taking the initial time that they're allotted, I wouldn't take that away. Does that make sense?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, so IEPs, 504s, and BIPs. So ensure that these accommodations are being followed. At the beginning of the school year, print those IEPs, BIPs, and 504s out. Highlight those accommodations and ensure that you're getting those for those students because it's important. It's ineffective if you're instructing these kids without these accommodations. So if Johnny can't see, he has a 504 for his vision, and he's sitting in the back of the classroom, he can't see what you're presenting if you have slides or if you're writing on the board. It's ineffective. So make sure that you are accommodating those students and following those. And even when you get a new student throughout the school year, print that documentation, make sure you're aware of what those accommodations are and you are following those strictly. Don't add or subtract, follow those accommodations. Now, if you see that a student is needing additional support, then we can reconvene and discuss that, but follow those accommodations strictly, please. And also contact the case manager regarding any persistent behavior that you are observing in the classroom. Document misbehavior, referrals, and review 360. Now, I can't stress this enough because a lot of teachers, they're like, okay, I sent him to the office like 5-10 times last week. So let's do, he needs a BIP. But they don't document that information in Review 360. So what evidence do you have to say that this student needs a BIP for their behavior? You don't have anything. So it's always important to keep a log of that information. Even if you have a call log or a behavior log, should I say, just writing when that time occurred, that behavior occurs, how long it lasted, what that behavior looked like, the antecedent, all of that information. Make sure you're logging that just so you can have documentation for the interventionist to develop a behavior plan, because we need to know how we can accommodate the student. Here's a list of case managers for each grade level, 2nd through 5th. And you can always contact administration and behavior interventionists to reach out for support. So a student is exhibiting persistent misbehavior or refusal to work and comply. That's when you would contact Ms. Runquest. Now, if you're just wanting feedback or setting up an observation in your classroom, you would also reach out for that as well. SST, Student Success Team, will be doing all of that classroom observations, and you'll fill out this observation form. Let me know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Yes.
So this is the behavior support form. You'll fill this information out with the student, their name, the contact, parents, if you've contacted them, a brief description on what the behavior looks like, strategies on how you try to help the student or whatnot. You submit that, and then administrators and behavior interventionists will reach out to you and set up some time for coaching and trying to develop some strategies to assist that student in any way for them to be successful in the classroom. All right, so not only is our behavior interventionist a support for dealing with behavior, but our counselor supports us as well. So capturing kids' hearts is huge, and they'll be doing that in No Place for Hate as well. We'll be having SEL lessons with our classes, addressing whole group needs, counseling the student may need within the school setting or even outside of the school setting. It's important if you see a student who's really dealing with something that is beyond our means of supporting them. We have those referrals that we can provide the students if they're needing outside counseling, even individual counseling or family support. We have those, and we'll be able to provide those. And our counselor will be able to give you more information with that as needed. So our school guidance curriculum, we provide classroom lessons 3 times a month to pre-K and second grade, and 3 to 5 times once a month for our 3rd and 5th graders. I feel like, our younger learners, they need a little more support simply because they're learning how to be kind. They're learning manners. They're learning those beginner social, emotional skills. And so we do address them a little more than we do with our big kids, our 3rd through 5th graders. So academic support, including any type of organizational setting and test taking skills, will be able to assist them as well. The school counselor, bullying prevention, career awareness, college awareness as well. Just putting that awareness out there. We'll be decorating doors, your favorite college, and have a contest amongst us teachers and educators, and just to bring awareness in the school, because our kids need to know that anything is possible and they are capable of going to school and venturing out into the real world someday. And so we want to give them those tools to be effective and have that multicultural and diversity awareness as well. All right, so academic planning and support, our crisis team, our education on understanding self and including strengths and weaknesses.
Before we move on, with the can you go back to the last slide?
Sure.
Do we have a schedule for like when the administrators or the counselors will be coming in and out of the classrooms to support?
So what we'll do before the school year starts, we'll let our students get acclimated to their school setting, and then by September we'll implement those scheduled times, and we'll provide everyone with the schedule per month. So it'll be mapped out. Everybody will have their set days and times. We won't change it for the rest of the year. So we'll do that, and we have to kind of look at the times that everyone's going to specials, lunch, recess, and all that, and then we'll get that all scheduled. But everyone will have that sent out to them soon. Sound good?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So All right. So, and yes, we address these supports that we'll be having. Our counselor will also have responsive services, any conflict resolution, consultation for administration and faculty and parents. So this is the consultation and collaboration. This is when there's a conflict maybe amongst educators within the school, educator and parent or whatnot. That counselor is there to be the mediator to kind of bridge that gap with our those two parties to kind of mediate, and also individual small grouping. So say if you have a group of students who can't seem to get along and maybe they're fighting all the time and bullying and talking about each other or whatnot, we also have the restorative practices where the students will go in that group outside of the whole group setting, and go speak with the counselor to kind of hash out what's going on and see how we can mend those relationships and move forward. So, and that's based on referrals as well. The teacher will identify those conflicts and be able to, speak more with the counselor about that and address those needs as well. So, and we kind of already briefly touch bases on that. So let me go back on what we discussed about where admin steps in and manages behavior. So first step would be if there's an immediate need for intervention, call the office and and email Ms. Cuellar. Now, don't always call when there's behavior going on in the classroom. I can't emphasize this enough, simply because, we'll have behavior in 5th grade, we'll have behavior in 3rd, 4th, or whatnot, and everyone's calling. There's only a certain amount of admin who can come to your rescue. Now, if it's something that you can definitely diffuse within your classroom, by all means, take the opportunity to do that. But administration is the last resort. So go through those restorative practices, make sure that you're implementing in the classroom, ask those 4 questions and see how you can de-escalate the situation. If it's not at all something that you are able to do within your means, then I would definitely say, then call the office. Contact the SPED case manager also before contacting administration. So if this is a SPED student, they are more familiar with these students, they're more familiar with accommodations, how to diffuse the situation. Say, for instance, if you have a student who has social and emotional needs, they pair better with their case manager because that case manager is aware of what they're needing. They may need just someone to comfort them and talk to them, hug them. But if you're not providing that daily support for that student in those areas, then you'll less likely be able to de-escalate those situations. So keep that in mind. Tier 2 behavior intervention. If these students are identified as behavior students, call the behavior interventionist first, because they are identified as behavior students.
Is this something that we can use our walkie-talkies for too? And
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So administration, behavior interventionist, and the counselor, in administration, I'm not sure if I already said that, but we'll all have walkie-talkies on us. So if I can't come to support you, Ms. Cuellar can come, Marnie can come, and the case managers can come as well. So we'll all have our walkie-talkies, and like I said, the walkie-talkies will all only be provided for teachers who have those severe behavior needs in their classroom. So everyone else will have to just use their classroom phones, and call the office. And I don't advise shooting an instant message, because I can't tell you how many times they get overlooked, because they pop in and then that's it. If you're not on your email at all times, then you won't see it. So I would keep that in mind. If it's a safety emergency, push the black button by the door. It'll automatically buzz the office, and anyone who's able to answer the call will be the first respondent to help you out. Referral process. Contact parents regarding the behavior resulting in the referral. Contact must be a day of a referral being assigned or prior to an administrator contacting the parent. So make sure that you're keeping the parents aware. I never want to have that uncomfortable conversation with the parent and let them know that their student received a referral and the teacher hasn't even spoken to the teacher about the referral. I can't tell you enough how I've had several conversations with parents like, well, why didn't the teacher tell me that this has been an issue, an ongoing issue within the classroom? Be sure you're communicating with your parents, because it's really important to have that open line of communication so they are aware of what's going on. So it won't be anything, catching them off guard when they receive a call from me and I have to go into great detail about things that should have already been revealed to them. Once a referral is entered in TAC, I will call, or Ms. Cuellar will call the student to the office, and we'll get the process started. This may not be immediate. Sometimes, depending on our caseload, if you submit a referral today, we may not be able to get to it until tomorrow. But I at least give 24 hours to address the situation. Nothing past that. So responses: either missing information, parent contact, or incident did not warrant a referral. That's the only time I'll kick it back to you and like, hey, we can address this issue without a referral. Then if I feel like the incident was not severe enough, I won't proceed with the referral. Resolved, admin will continue with formal consequences and discuss those consequences with the students. Incident created, those consequences will be assigned. So if a kid has referral, I assign them lunch detention. That's an incident created, and that's what will be intact and communicated to the parents as well. Any questions about that? The referral responses?
No, it's pretty simple. It's pretty similar to what we did last year. So yeah.
Okay. So communication: administrator who processed a referral will email and follow up regarding the referral. If it was returned, they'll state why it was returned, and if resolved, they'll also state that, and including consequences if there are any. So be looking out on that. Hopefully there won't be too many referrals this year. I'm hoping, with our great counselor on board, we'll have some great social and emotional lessons that we'll be practicing this school year to work on. I know last year was really tough. Just coming back from COVID, and behavior was really high, and it's been rough. It's been a rough past 2 years. So I'm hoping that this year things will be better, and we won't have so many incidents this year. So our last bullet for referral process: for incidents created, students will go home with a printed copy of the referral. Teachers, please collect the signed copy the next day and provide it to myself or Ms. Cuellar. If the student does not bring it back signed, report it to Ms. Cuellar so we can print another one and send it back home. Now, if that one does not get signed, let me know, and what I'll do is contact the parent and let them know, like, hey, your kiddo was sent to the office, and we sent them home a form and they haven't sent it back, and so we'll have to maybe schedule some a meeting with the parents so they can come up and address the situation and physically sign it themselves. But we need to make sure we're getting that information to the parents and signed to them as well.
We're just giving them one day, collect it the next day.
Right. So when we send it the initial day, say we sent a referral home today, tomorrow they need to bring it back signed. Now, if it's not signed the next day, we print out another one, send it home, and it's supposed to be signed. If it's not sent home, let me know or another administrator, and we'll reach out to parents and try to get that signature and let the parent know what's going on. Because obviously, especially if they don't answer the phone, they're obviously not aware of what's going on. If the the student has not returned the form. So
Is there any like additional steps, like if it's on a Friday, because that's a two, we're on a 2 day break there with the weekend. So is there any additional steps that we would take if it over over the course of a weekend, if it ends on that?
it'll be the same process. If it's Friday, then they'll just bring it back on Monday. If it's not returned by Monday, then we'll send it out. It's the same thing. They just get a little extra time to get it signed on the weekend. But we definitely need to get those phone calls out that Friday. We don't want to wait till Monday to let them know, hey, your student got a referral. We want to call them that Friday, because I think that's a little too much time to let pass before speaking to a parent. So I know you may have a lot on your plate, but by the end of the day, even if you have to stay a little later, make sure you're contacting those parents and keeping them informed of what took place that day, so we won't have to start the week off on such a negative note. You know what I mean?
Yes, I got it. I agree.
All right. So this will be our last slide, and then we'll finish up because we're pressing for time. So emergency response crisis team, there is a direct concern for student safety requiring immediate intervention, which we already discussed. Say a student took off from the classroom, or they're throwing objects or whatnot. Push the button, call the office. Crisis team will respond. We'll come running. Evacuate your classroom. I would say find a safe place. A lot of teachers, they use their buddy teacher and have their classroom go to their buddy teacher until the situation de-escalates. But if anyone is potentially in harm's way, do not keep your students in the classroom. Take them out. And I think that's it. So, let's see. So, what questions do you have for me?
How, in regards to the referrals, how many referrals are they allowed to get before they, take the next step in like suspension or detention or anything like that? Like, how many, basically, how much are we going to put up with before we take the next step?
So here's the thing, and that's all about knowing your kiddo and understanding the situation. I feel like it varies. In my personal opinion, I don't have a set rule of, if you have 3 referrals, then you get suspended. Now, I feel that depending on the severity, say for instance, if a student is fighting continuously and, they have 2 referrals for the same thing in the physical aggression, then I think it would warrant maybe in-school suspension, but that's the first step to being suspended from school altogether. We don't want to take the kiddo out of the school setting unless it's something terribly bad, like a terroristic threat or whatnot. But if it's something along the lines of something that we can manage ourselves, then we'll do that. This video right here, we're over time. So this video right here, I will put that, I'll email it to you or send you guys the slides so you are able to look at it. It's a great video that shows what restorative practices look like, making your school a welcoming environment, or classroom, should I say, a welcoming environment, and making kids excited about coming to school and learn. So if there are no further questions, I will let you all go.
Okie doke. Okay. When should we expect the email?
I'll send it right now, actually.
Okay, alrighty. And I think I signed in, so I think I don't have any more questions, but thank you. It was a very good presentation.
Awesome. Thank you. You have a good one. Thanks for participating.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.